Before we start our program, let us pause to recognize that Stanford sits on the ancestral and unceded land of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe. We will now share a land acknowledgement presented by members of the Native American community at Stanford and produced by Stanford Live.
Stanford sits on the territory of Huichin, the ancestral and unceded lands of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe,
who are the successors of the historic and sovereign Verona Band of Alameda County. This land was and continues to be of great importance to Native people.
We recognize that every member of the community has benefited
and continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land.
Consistent with our values of community and diversity,
we have a responsibility
to
acknowledge and make visible
the university's relationship to Native people.
So I'd like to welcome everyone who has joined us. Feel free to use the chat on the right side of the page to say where you're from, greet everybody. We're happy to have you here. This summit is the first of its kind for the Rathbun Fund for exploring what leads to a meaningful life. The Rathbun Fund, founded in 2007, is a part of Stanford's Office for Religious and Spiritual Life and is intended to help students experience personal reflection, thoughtful discussion, and a deeper exploration of life's purpose. You may have heard of our past Rathbun lectures on a meaningful life, delivered by luminaries such as His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the Honorable Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This summit is an important moment for Stanford as we extend the prestigious Rathbun program from a keynote lecture to an engaging conference for students to train, network, and collaborate across movements for change. Activism is important in forging lives of meaning and purpose. This summit's student planning committee chose to focus on two areas: climate change, environmental justice, and violence, mass incarceration, as issues that are at the forefront of students' minds right now. From today until the end of the summit on Wednesday, we will offer opportunities to both listen to the inspiring stories of community activists and also learn from them, acquiring concrete skills to transform the world from the way it is to the way it ought to be. Before we begin the program, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the amazing Summit Planning Committee who has been meeting and preparing since last summer. Students Maili Yi, Logan Welch, Michael Brown, Saloni Sanwaka, Lila Mack, Daryl Hornick, Ekelyn Ho, Maya Kegley, and Brentley Sandlin, as well as staff members Dominique Johnson from the Black Community Services Center and Petra Dierkstrand from the Office for Inclusion, Belonging, and Intergroup Communication. They deserve a round of applause for their dedication to this program, even through all the difficult times this past year. I'd also like to express gratitude to my colleagues from the Office for Religious and Spiritual Life who have supported the summit into being. They, along with wonderful volunteer staff and students who are mentioned in the summit program, will be in the breakout sessions, making sure everything is running smoothly. Thank you all. Now, it's time to hand it over to one of our student leaders, Logan Welch, who is a junior that hails from Michigan. Confronted with inequity from an early age, he felt compelled to pursue a political science major here at Stanford with an eye to constitutional and criminal defense law, interning with the Martin Luther King Institute, and now entering the world of student activism.
Thanks for the lovely introduction and that, Diane. I'm really excited for this to be your student moderator today, especially because we have such great speakers lined up. So I'm just going to dive right in with our first introduction. As an award-winning queer Samoan poet, teacher, writer, community leader, mental health professional, and advocate, there are few who embody so clearly the values of this summit, as well as our first speaker, and none who can put those values into verse with her precision, skill, and poignancy. She's performed everywhere from the Obama White House to the UN Climate Summit in Paris, France, and now to us here at the Rathbun Activism Summit. We couldn't be more honored. A virtual round of applause for Terisa Siagatonu.
Yay. Thank you so much, Logan. Thank you so much to the committee for having me. Hello, everyone. Talo Falava. I also am here on unceded Ohlone territory, and I'm so grateful and excited to be with you all today, virtually. As a poet, as a speaker, so much of the energy I get in performance, that the ways I feel the poems in my body is through crowd interaction. So I really do encourage y'all to use the chat feature throughout both my time and when every speaker is speaking, to really show love, really show that you're with us as best as possible, okay? I am a woman who is of Samoan descent, and my people are from the island of Samoa, Oceania, or the Pacific Islands by way of the Bay Area. And so much of my work focuses on the intersections of what it means to be a queer Samoan woman, person of color in the world, especially what it means to be all of those things in the midst of environmental injustice and climate change. And so I'm going to share with you 2 poems to kick off our time together. I think art is a very powerful way to articulate that which is maybe difficult to articulate in other mediums. And so this first poem was one that was inspired by a Pacific Islander scholar in my community, in which I talk so much about the pride I have in coming from the Pacific Islands, knowing that to a large degree, people still don't know much about who Pacific Islanders are outside of the movie Moana, outside of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, or maybe you've vacationed or been to our islands for a family vacation or a honeymoon or whatnot. But what I know as someone who is who belongs to a frontline community in this work in climate change is that the Pacific Islands is a place in the world in which folks should know where we are and should know what our position means in this fight for justice. And as Auntie Haunani K. Trask says, upon the survival of the Pacific depends the survival of the world. Here's the first poem. If you open up any atlas and take a look at a map of the world, almost every single one of them slices the Pacific Ocean in half. To the human eye, most maps center all land masses on Earth, creating the illusion that water can handle the butchering and be pushed to the edges of the world, as if the Pacific Ocean isn't the largest body living today, beating the loudest heart, the reason why land has a pulse in the first place. The audacity one must have to create a visual so violent as to assume that nobody comes from water, so nobody will care what you do with it. And yet people came from land, are still coming from land, and look what was done to them. When people ask me where I'm from, they don't believe me when I say water. So instead I tell them that home is a machete and I belong to places that don't belong to themselves anymore. Broken and butchered places that have made me a hyphen of a woman, a Samoan American that carries the weight of both colonizer and colonized, both blade and blood. California, stolen. Samoa, sliced in half, stolen. California, nestled on the western coast of the most powerful country on the planet. Samoa, an island so microscopic on a map, it's no wonder people doubt its existence. California, a state of emergency, a way of having the drought rid it of all its water. Samoa, a state of emergency, a way of becoming a saltwater cemetery if the sea levels don't stop rising. So when people ask me where I'm from, what they want is to hear me speak of land. What they want is to know where I go once I leave here. The privilege of assuming that home is just a destination and not the panic, not the constant migration that the panic gives birth to. What is it like to know that home is something that is waiting for you to return to it? What does it mean to belong to something that isn't sinking? What does it mean, y'all, to belong to something that is causing the flood? So many of us come from water, but when you come from water, no one believes you. Colonization keeps laughing. Global warming is grinning all at your grief. How you mourn the loss of a home that isn't even gone yet, that no one believes you're from. How everyone is beginning to hear more about your islands, but only in the context of vacations and honeymoons, football and military life, exotic beaches, exotic fruit, exotic women, but never asks about the rest of its body, the water, the islands in them, the reasons why they're sinking. No one visualizes the Pacific Islands as actually being there. You explain and clarify and fix their incorrect pronunciation and explain till they realize just how vast your ocean is, how microscopic your islands look in them, how easy it is to miss when looking on a map of the world, excuses people make for why they didn't see it before. Thanks, y'all. This is gonna be my next and final poem. I will say that both of these pieces are poems that I brought and finished while I was at the 2015 United Nations Conference on Climate Change in Paris, France, where the Paris Agreement was established. And I went with the delegation of Pacific Islander poets, Indigenous poets, in which I was at a place in my life 6 years ago where I was so nervous. I was like, well, I'm not an environmental activist. I'm not a climate change, organizer. Like, what do I have to contribute to this global meeting on the climate crisis? And then when I got there, as the artist that I was with the artists that I went with, it became very clear that artists are to me, some of the strongest interpreters and strongest people we have to really language this moment for a lot of people and really, conceptualize what it is that we're dealing with, both on a local level in our neighborhoods, in our states and in our countries and around the world. I was so privileged that right before the pandemic shut everything down last year, my last in-person gig was actually with the Stanford Women's Center, in which I did a talk on climate justice work and the importance of art in this environmental movement. And so as I finish my time and share this last poem before our amazing keynote speaker, who I'm so excited to hear from, just know that you don't have to be an organizer or an activist or have all the knowledge there is in the world to get down with this work that we so desperately need everyone to buy into and to invest in. And so I wrote this poem in the spirit of that, finished it when I was in Paris for the UN Conference on Climate Change. And it's one that really exemplifies, we got a lot of work to do, but I think we can do it in this lifetime and all the ones afterwards. So here we go, it's called Layers. I don't know much about how to talk about climate change, but I do know a thing or two about water. I know that San Francisco, city of my birth, is running out of it, as in the state of California is losing its memory of what lakes look like because not enough rain has fallen to replenish them. I know that my island of Samoa is thriving off of the very thing that plans to kill it once the sea levels are too high to distinguish the difference between swimming and drowning. I know that the tsunami spared my grandpa and his home back in September of 2009, but took 200 others. How no one in my family ever dared to call that a blessing. I'm not always confident when it comes to talking about the impacts of fossil fuels or carbon footprints, but I do know a hell of a lot about poverty and the paradoxes of being poor. How saving the environment rarely means saving those who come from environments like mine, where Black and brown bodies are riddled with despair, too worried about going broke to even worry about going green, losing their will to fight the foreclosure signs, sprouting on their blocks like redwoods, worried about how to make a dollar stretch with dignity, to even worry about saving anyone else but themselves, and I can't blame them. According to a poll, most Americans know that the climate is changing, but they say that they're just not that worried about it. They say that it's too distant for them to care about it right now, too abstract, too big, too rich to care about it affecting them, too poor to prioritize caring about how it affects them. Climate change isn't always something that I feel confident talking about, y'all, but I know what it's like to watch Mother Nature watch other mothers grieving in the streets as their child's Black or brown body decomposes on hot gravel, at the feet of police brutality, in the face of an iPhone camera. Watch the rest of the world watch our extinction go viral. Another version of an inconvenient truth. Call this a debate if you want. Call this a left-wing liberal protest cry all you want, but this is what I know about climate change, y'all. I know the academics who take my community's pain and turn it into a grant proposal without our permission. I know the reporters who take my community's grief and use it as a fear tactic. I know the price of greed and the people who have to pay for it a third world away. I know how to trace the puppet strings back to the corporations who hold the world's wealth for hostage in their back pockets while the rest of us spend our lives paying for the gun. I know what it's like to come from the most powerful country on the planet, forever pregnant off of its own power. You know, there are those who want to talk about climate change, yet don't want to talk about how those who are affected the most can't prioritize it in the first place. Because prioritizing it would mean being forced to pull the layers back and also talk about the poverty, the white supremacy, the colonization, the US military, the injustice, the racism, the privilege, the hush money, the hit list that climate change is operating from, the rounds it makes on Earth, starting with the most vulnerable. Everyone is affected by climate change, yet some are affected first, yet no one cares until it's affecting them. This is for those of us who may never read the reports, who may never go to the conferences, who may never have the data, who may never have the language, but who still has a voice. This is for those of us who can't even afford to pay rent, but who also can't afford to wait. For those of us who are ready to act, even if it means you do it for someone you don't even know, in a place on the other side of the world you didn't even know existed. You know, there are those of us who are talking about climate change, and then there are those of us who are fighting it. This is for those of us, all of us, who have always had to figure out a way to do both. Thank y'all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your summit. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you.
Wow. Teresa, I have nothing more to say other than that was everything that I wish I could say. That was amazing. Yeah, wow. Moving on to our amazing second speaker. She is one of the most inspiring youth activists of our time, undoubtedly. Even more so for me, because she comes from my home state of Michigan. Bursting onto the youth activism scene at the age of 8, the speaker has played a vital role in addressing the ongoing Flint water crisis. She is also a leading anti-bullying advocate, been featured on magazines from Teen Vogue to Time and speaking out against environmental racism, and is a community leader in her hometown of Flint, Michigan. Oh, and did I mention that she's only 13? We at Rathbun are deeply honored to present our keynote speaker, Mari Copeny. Take it away.
Oh, okay. Hi. Okay. Let me do my face shingy. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. Water. For most, it's always there. You don't even think about it in your day. I messed it up. Okay. For most, it's always there. You don't even think about it in your day-to-day life. You turn on the tap to get a drink, to brush your teeth, to make a pitcher of lemonade, to cook dinner with, and to run a bubble bath. There is never any question about if it's safe. We live in America, and there are systems in place to make sure that it is. But sometimes those systems fail, and instead of clean water coming from your faucet, you end up getting poison. And suddenly you are facing a crisis that affects the single most basic human necessity, the water. And when that happens, life as you know it drastically changes. My name is Mari. I'm a 13-year-old kid from Flint, Michigan. People around the world know me as Little Miss Flint, even though I'm not so little anymore. When I was 6 years old, a water crisis began in my hometown. The water that was coming from our taps was not safe. In some homes, it was way more toxic than toxic waste. The people in charge of my community decided that we needed to save money. So instead of keeping our safe water source, they wanted us to drink water from the Flint River that would be treated in a water treatment plant that had not been used for decades. And to save even more money, they decided to spend about $100 a day to treat the water and make sure that the water would not eat away at the aging pipes. Wait, I said that wrong. Oh my God, no, I said that wrong. They decided not to. Okay, yeah, not to treat the water so they wouldn't eat away at the aging pipes. All around the city, the water was coming out the faucet brown. At my house, the water smelled funny, and if you stayed in the bath for too long, you would get a rash that resembled chemical burns. My little sister ended up with rashes so bad she had to have a special ointment and be wrapped in plastic wrap at night to try to heal her skin. We could no longer brush our teeth or drink any water from the tap, and my siblings and I were no longer able to take bubble baths. All around the city, the water was causing issues. Lots of kids ended up with lead poisoning. The water was killing people, and as you could imagine, this was really scary. As a kid, it was hard to understand how the water got so bad and why the adults weren't fixing it. And honestly, I really miss being able to take a bubble bath. Since the adults didn't seem to be listening to each other, I decided maybe they would listen to a kid. Back then, my mom thought I was crazy, and to be honest, I still believe she thinks I'm out of my mind most days. But she let me take the lead, and that's exactly what I did. We started going to marches and protests, even when it was 20 degrees outside and there was snow up to my knees. I started speaking up and doing whatever I could to get people to listen to me. And FYI, it's really hard to make adults listen to you when you're a kid and they think that you have no idea what you're talking about. We got a chance to go to Washington, D.C. for the congressional hearings of the Flint water crisis. A couple of days before leaving, I asked my mom if we could send a letter to President Obama. I knew there was no way he would even read the letter, let alone respond, but I wanted to try anyway. That trip came and went. Then a couple months later, my mom got a call from a blocked number. Turns out President Obama had read my letter, and not only was he going to write me back, he was going to come to Flint and visit me firsthand. Suddenly, everyone wanted to hear what I had to say, and I made sure I could use that platform to do as much good as I could. Giving back has always been something that has come second nature to me. All my life, I've been raised to give back to my community. When I was little, I spent a lot of time with my grandma, volunteering at the local food bank. During the holidays, my family would make up boxes of essentials and gifts for local families in need. So when the water crisis in Flint began, it was only natural to do what I could to give back. We started helping out to pass out water and other supplies to Flint residents. The bigger my platform became, the more I was able to give back. Every time I saw a need in the community, I made sure to do whatever I could to make sure that need was met. For what started 1 year as a challenge to fill 50 backpacks for local kids has turned into me giving out over 17,000 fully stocked backpacks. I have also given away thousands of books with authors and characters of color to kids locally because every child deserves books where they can see themselves represented. During the holidays, I throw huge holiday parties, including real reindeer, bounce houses, a hot cocoa bar, and of course, thousands of toys for the kids to pick from. When I saw many area kids were walking to school without coats, I organized a coat drive and I've given away over 1,000. I have I have a letter project called Dear Flint Kids that has gotten in thousands of letters of positive affirmations to Flint kids from all around the world. I started that project so kids here know that they are not forgotten and they are loved. In April of 2018, when the state decided it no longer wanted to fund the water sites for residents to get clean water, I stepped up and raised money to be able to give away water to the residents that depended on that bottled water. I was able to raise over $250,000, and ultimately I gave away over 1 million bottles of water in about a year. The lines were always long, and many showed up hours early to make sure they were able to get bottled water. The bottled water was a lifeline for people, no matter how inconvenient it was, but the amount of plastic waste coming out of Flint from bottled water was hurting our environment, so I reached out to a company and working with them, we came up with my very own water filter, a filter that gives an immediate solution to people dealing with toxic drinking water. One one that takes bottled water out the equation and allows people to know that they are not at risk of running out of bottled water or having to worry about how they are going to be able to afford bottled water. I have raised $400,000 to help fund these filters, and they are being shipped all over the country because unfortunately toxic drinking water is not a problem that is unique to Flint. It is actually a problem that is nationwide, with millions of US dealing with toxic drinking water. By now, you are probably thinking, how is this kid able to pull all this off? Well, once President Obama came to Flint, I used that attention to build on and just never stopped. I used that 15 minutes of fame to make sure that people would never forget about Flint. At one time, I would have to try my hardest to get the attentions of politicians and celebrities to see if they could help. Now they're the ones that reach out to me. And if a little black girl from Flint, Michigan can do so much to help to help her community, so can you. I have learned a lot. I have learned a lot the past few years, and I want to share. And I want to share with you. You don't have to wait until you grow up to change the world. There is no time better than the present to get to work. People are going to doubt you and criticize you. Ignore them. In the time you will prove them all wrong. Use a platform you have to lead with love. The world is full of cruel and hateful people. You don't have to be one of them. Use the platform you have to build movements and lift others up. If they don't give you a seat at the table, stand on it with your megaphone. They need to hear you, and even if they don't realize it just yet. I have learned a lot from Flint and what happened here. Environmental racism is real, and it's an issue we need to tackle head on. Too many kids are growing up in communities where the environment around them is damaging to their health and well-being. From toxic water to toxic air, every kid deserves to grow up without having to worry that their surroundings can kill them. Lead poisoning affects kids for their entire life. Asthma can slow any kid down from just being a kid. It is going to take a lot of work to fix all the problems, but it's not impossible. I'm Mari. I'm a 13-year-old kid from Flint, out to save the world. We'll move for president in 2044.
Yeah, I absolutely will. That was a great speech, perfectly delivered. And now we're really excited because we get to, I guess, hold you hostage a little bit here and ask you some questions. So I'm going to start, and then the audience can also post questions in the Q&A tab or just in the chat, and I'll bring those up later. But my first question for you, Mari, is like you said, you've done a lot, right? You've done a backpack drive or a book drive. You sit on the Flint Youth Justice League. You throw these awesome holiday parties. I mean, like real reindeer. It's kind of amazing. So like, where do you find the energy to do all of this? Like the motivation, what inspires you?
Okay, so basically what inspires me to do all these huge events to help my community and stuff is just basically, it's just the kids that just inspire me. Like the kids here, seeing them all sad and stuff, I just want to like do more to help them. So I just do huge events and pull them off. And I make kids happy, and seeing the kids here smile makes me really motivated and makes me happy.
Wow, that's a wonderful answer. Yeah, definitely. And I've got another question then. I mean, there are a lot of sad kids and adults out there nowadays. The times are really tough. And I wonder, like, how do you maintain hope, right? You mentioned there are a lot of little problems out there. How do you look at those and say, you know what, we'll fix them? Or, just how do you stay positive in the face of that?
Honestly, I just try to look at the brighter side of things, and trying to look like negative or trying to look down on some things. And I guess I just like, I don't really know, but like, I don't really know how to answer that, to be honest.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I don't really know how to answer that either, but you keep chugging along, I guess. So you've done so much, and you're still so young. And I wonder, like, I'm old, I guess, compared to you, which is odd. And I wonder, like, what advice do you have for youth activists, including, I guess, me, and also people of like your age? Like, what's one thing that we should set out and strive for?
Okay, so kind of like advice from me to other people who want to become activists like me and stuff like that. Pretty much, you have to use your voice you have to use your voice. Like, that's one thing you have to do. Like, if you want to talk about something that you're really passionate and inspired by, use your voice, use the platform that you have, and just keep on. Because the more and more you use your voice, the more and more you're going to stride up, and you're going to end up being at the top, and you're going to end up getting a lot of recognition and stuff like that from people that you probably wouldn't even think that would, like just look at you and be like, oh wait, they do all that. That's like, wow, I never thought they would do that. And like you just gotta like do that, and like you're eventually get to the top, and you eventually get higher and higher. And you just end up having to just keep on like striding on and just keep on being on the top and keep on being there. Because honestly, that's how it is. And you just gotta like, and you also have to be very fearless too. Like, yeah, it may be scary at first to use your voice to want to speak up, but once you do it for long enough and once you get the hang of it, then you end up being super fearless about it. So just stay fearless and just use your voice.
And do you find that like by you using your voice, like your friends and your classmates and stuff, do they step up too?
Okay, so to answer that question, a lot of my classmates and my friends, they don't really like do the same type of things I do. Like, I don't like they don't really do like they're not really big on the activism stuff. They normally leave all that to me. And so I'm known for that stuff. They just be like, oh, Mari can do that. She can probably get this spread it on the internet and boom, people recognize it. And I'd be like, but you guys have to use your platform, use your voice too. And I can't just do it on myself. And be like, oh no, but you're like more famous than us. And they're like, okay.
Definitely, but I bet they still come to the holiday party. No. Absolutely. Okay, I have another question. So there's like, I guess I guess classic icebreaker questions like, oh, if you had a superpower, what would yours be? I have, I guess, a activism icebreaker question. So if you could change like one thing about the world right now, what would it be?
Oh my God. Oh my goodness. That is
Yeah, it's a tough question.
Oh, that's really hard to answer. There's so many things I want to change about the world, but I think one thing I would have to like ultimately change if I was able to change the world, and ultimately, I would most definitely have to change the way just the world is in general. Like the world is like a very rude and hateful place. I would change that and make people switch on and be a little bit more nicer and just be nice and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Kindness goes quite a long way. Quite a long way. Um, so are you in middle school or high school?
I'm inside middle school. I'm an 8th grader.
Okay. Oh, so you're about to graduate.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited for you. Um, how do you juggle being like a student, doing your homework, clubs, hanging out with friends, and like your activism? Like how do you strike that balance?
Okay, so I actually get asked this question a lot, and normally I just say like, "Oh, that's no big deal." It's like it's really hard to maintain. It's not hard to maintain at all, actually. It's like, okay, so since I haven't really been able to do like travel and do like my huge speeches and stuff that I normally do because Corona and quarantine, stuff like that. Everything's just been online. And since my school is sort of online and sort of in real life, since I kind of do hybrid, so like it's not hard because like yeah, I go to school, but like also have most of my schoolwork is online, so it's not in person. And most of like the stuff I do is just basically all my activist stuff that I do is online. So everything's just online. I'm normally just at home just not doing anything. So it's just like super easy and super conventional because like I'm at home and I'm
Right. It's like home base. You can just
yeah.
clack and everything is done. Absolutely. Um, yeah, and how have you kind of adjusted your community building, community work around Corona, right? Like I hear you've gone online. What does that mean? What does that look like?
Okay, so basically like the stuff that looks like I would be doing online is like a Zoom meeting, like this one now, speaking to a camera and trying to sound as very energetic because it's not inside person. Which really sucks because like I feel like most like all the stuff I do is like online, so I have to like just sit on the camera in front of on a Zoom call and sound very energetic about doing speeches and answering questions. But in reality, it's like it's boring not being able to be in like that moment and not being able to be very like truly energetic and happy because like you're just not there, and it just sort of like just like I don't know, like being on a Zoom call and like trying to sound energetic and stuff like that just like dims down the mood super easily. But like if I was to do this like in life, I would be way more energetic, and it would probably be way more funner because human interaction. This is the only human interaction I'll get.
Yeah, I mean, not forever. Like, hopefully this ends. So there will be more.
Yeah, hopefully like all this ends and everything dims down, because I do know that I did hear that Michigan is kind of like the hot spot for Rona, and cases keep on going up. And it's normally in like my age range from like 13 to like 18. I'm not really sure about the age range for that blonde, but like it's like people aren't wearing their mask and they're just traveling and doing what they can without a mask and not social distance. And I need them to do that. Like I need them to just social distance and wear their mask, because I am trying. I am trying so hard to. I am trying to have a decent life without Rona, having to worry about if I'm going to get sick or not. And like I know for a fact all this summer cases are probably either going to go down or going to go up. There's no in between about that, because there's either people that's going to be wearing their mask this summer or not wearing their mask. And I'm trying to have a good, healthy summer, because honestly, I just want to have a very, 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 very fun summer. So I didn't get to have that summer fun last year. So I'm trying to make this summer my best summer, but I'm going to need everybody to just calm down with the traveling and all that and just wear their mask and be safe, please.
Yes, totally. I mean, you got to have a good summer before high school. Right? You got to end middle school with a bang. And yeah, luckily we have a pretty great governor, right? So definitely, I'm not too worried about that. Another question. So you're a young activist, right? And you talked a little bit about this in your speech, about how there are some barriers that young activists face that older activists don't. Can you like give us a bit more specifics on that? What is a challenge to specifically young activists that we should look for, and how could we, mount that hurdle? Or I guess
Okay, so some challenges that young activists face is basically like if they're speaking about a topic that would be talked about from older people and stuff like that, adults, and like it would just be basically adults that talk down about them and be like, you don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? You don't know anything about that. You're not grown enough to do that. Saying, or the main phrase I would always say, stay in a child's place. It's not that's not the go-to thing to say, and people and adults really shouldn't bash kids for talking about a topic that they are very, very, very like know and very smart on, because you don't talk bad about a kid because they're literally spitting facts and literally spitting something that means the most to them. And most of the time the kids know way more facts about the topic than the adults do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. And then I want to know, like, I kind of want to turn that on its head. What advantages do you think that like youth activists have over older ones? Like perspective, or what you got?
Okay, I do. Let's see some advantages that youth activists have that older activists don't. Let's see. I don't really know, because like I feel like I kind of get treated like an older activist, but at the same time I don't. And that's like I don't really know how to word that, because like it's weird. Like it's in like that weird middle range of just like, oh, she's so cute, she's so tiny, she knows what she's talking about, or the oh, she's like she's getting so grown, like look at her talk about these big things. In the middle is just like, oh yeah, that's just Mari, she knows what she's talking about. I don't A lot of like young activists have advantages, and like they get to do like way more stuff, but also older activists do like way more stuff too. But like I don't know, I feel like both of them get like the same amount of as advantages as both. I'm not really sure.
Okay, yeah, totally. That makes sense. So we've got a question from the audience. I apologize if I get this wrong. Analia Guerrero asks, what can we start with to help in the world or our community? Like, what's the first stepping stone?
I think the first stepping stone would have to be like try to get your voice heard. Yeah, just try to get your voice heard. If you see something on social media that's like a Boost link or GoFundMe, retweet it, repost it, donate to it, use your voice about it. That's the first step you can do. And then as stuff progresses on, do the things that people are talking about. Like go to marches and protest, do those speeches, go speak in front of a group of kids about it. Educate some little kids, educate grown folks. Do that.
Yeah, definitely. And then I guess another question from her: how can we get connected with people who work in politics within our community, right?
I don't really know how to answer that question, to be honest, because like I feel like I reach out to a lot of like politics and like celebrities and stuff like that, but sometimes they don't respond, and then like either like a few days or like weeks or like months later, they'll be the ones reaching back to you. So I guess you want to like shoot your shot and be like first about it and just like ask them like, hey, look at this. Can you do something about it? And then like see if they respond. And if they don't respond, hit them up again. And then they'll eventually respond.
Yeah. So you just got to be tenacious. All right. Definitely. Hopefully that answers your question, Analia. And let's see. So you do a lot of community building work as well as like activism work. How important do you think community building is to activism, and are they one and the same to you?
I think they're one of the same. Yeah.
Could you elaborate a little bit?
Let's see. How can I elaborate on that? I don't know. They kind of like remind me of like to be like the exact same thing, even like they're both like way different from each other. They sort of like just feel like the exact same. I don't really know how to explain it, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah. No, that makes so you feel like, you know, with a book drive and a holiday party, you're like contributing to the community's well-being in the same way that like activism might, something like that. And so, you know, regardless of whether you're marching or, you know, delivering water bottles or whatever, it's just the same thing to you. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So I have a question about what you've been doing. Like, do you have any like future plans for activism, either after Rona or during Rona? What's next for Mari beyond presidency, of course?
Let's see. What's next for Mari? Well, I feel like I have to like plan a lot of things after Rona, so then like, cause you know things will probably be safer and stuff like that. But yeah, like you know, I just want to plan like way more holiday event parties for the kids and do more big things like give out my water filters, of course. Yeah, I'm gonna give out my water filter because I have raised a lot of money for my water filters. I don't know the exact number for that, but I have to remember it. But I don't remember it right now. But I'm almost at my goal of raising enough money for my water filters so I can ship them out nationwide. So people have clean, safe drinking water. But like that's like one thing that's like that's next for Mari. But like yeah, it'll be way bigger events, my water filters, and being a kid, and then of course like when I get older and older, college, and then older than that, being president.
Don't use that many olders when you're talking about college. You make me feel elderly. Like I'm barely 20. Come on now. But on the topic of water filters, somebody asked, how can people like request them? Where can we get these water filters?
Okay, so I do in fact have, so if you like follow me on social media, Twitter and Instagram, you know that I do a lot of funding for my water filters, and I post a lot of my water filters. I'm pretty sure I have a link inside my bio that takes you to the water filters, But some of them aren't getting shipped, and that's because we have to fund more of them, like fund so we can ship them all out for people that need them. But like, you can donate to the GoFundMe, and it will help. It will help a lot, even if you just donate like $5 to it, or like even $2. It still helps. It really does. It counts and it helps. But like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I have like a link in one of my social media bios. I don't really keep track of my social media bios anymore, but I'm pretty sure there's like a link or something there, Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And speaking of like social media bios, how important is social media to activism? Could you say like do everything on social media, or is there like a really hallowed place for on the ground work?
Okay, so I feel like social media is like a big thing if you want to like do activism and like do stuff on there, stuff like that, because like social media, everybody is literally connected through social media. More people will in fact listen to you if you just use social media to like boost things. Like, yeah, you can boost things, you can retweet things, you can repost things, you can do all that at the touch of your fingers, because you have a phone or a laptop or a tablet or any smart device or anything like that. You have internet connection, and you still have social media like Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok for once. Yeah, you can totally like get your voice heard on TikTok, because hashtags, put a lot of hashtags on TikTok, because TikTok is trending. Really, it's been trending a lot, but it's even more trending. TikTok is like one of the places you can get your voice heard and get more people to listen to you, stuff like that. Twitter, I would say Twitter is one, but you have to find the right space of people on there to get your voice heard. Cause even though all social media apps have like that one bad toxic side of hateful people, Twitter is it's one of those apps that has one of those bad sides that are not very nice at all. It's not. It's really not.
And like, how do you just ignore them, or do you like engage?
Okay, so like Twitter wise, like just social media wise in general, my mom runs my account. So she does, like, she tells that there's hate comments, but she will never let me see the hate comments. Like, yeah, she'll either show me the hate comments, like read them to me, but like should never like truly let me like log into my own Twitter account or any of my own social media accounts. Like, okay, she let me use my Instagram, and I post a lot of my face on there, but it's only on my story, but that's it. But she will, I don't think she will never ever let me log into my own Twitter account and look at the comments or the tweets or the DMs and stuff like that, because I don't think, because like I feel it's like she just doesn't want me to like get hurt by him. And the thing is that, like, yeah, I'll get hurt by him, but like at the same time I'll probably just laugh at them, to be honest. I do that with a lot of hate that I get, so I just laugh at them. It's not the smart way to do, but you just gotta laugh it off.
No, yeah, you got to find the humor in it. I see. Absolutely. Nah, and then how important is family to your activism, right? Like, how have they supported you, and what role did they play?
Okay, so my family supports a lot of things that I do. Like, they literally support everything that I do, and I'm very grateful for it. And it makes me so happy, that like I have family that are always gonna be there to support me, and like just support me and through all what I do, no matter what.
Yeah, nah, like, so support network is definitely in your family. Does it extend like past that? Do you have, like, I know not a lot of your classmates and friends are activists, but do you have like a couple close ones who have your back and help you out?
Yes. Okay. So the thing about me with my friends is like a lot of my friends are online friends. Well, actually, no, I lied. I have a few online friends, and those are the ones on my Discord server. But those are like the only like online friends I have, like mutual stuff like that. Like, those are my online friends, and they know exactly what I do, and they'd be like posting like all my what I do on like other servers and stuff like that. But like, wait, what are you doing? What are you doing? Wait, no, no, no. They'd be like, this is little Miss Flint. She's my friend. I know her. Just just go spam her thingies and do that. Donate, do that. And it'd be like, okay, my online friends are cool. I have a few friend groups, and I have a lot of like in real life friends, and most of them are out of state. And those are like my activist friends, like other activists like me that are my age or older. Those are my out of state friends. I have my school friends, which I only like have a few school friends, only because since I learned that all the school friends that I used to have, they kind of were being fake and were using me for clout, and I lost half all my friends from that. So that wasn't
Yeah.
the best, but it's like only a few of them stuck by my side, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then I have my other friend, and that's literally my little sister, and she is, she's my little sister, but she's also my best friend. She is my best friend, and of course, we always scream at each other, and we always say bestie and stuff like that. And she also acts exactly like me, and she's also starting into the activism too. So so that's a Mari 2.0 right there.
Yeah, no, we need more Maris. So absolutely great. I'm sure you're a great role model, much better than me for my younger brother. So I have, yeah, so I have no more questions. Oh, but Starlin Lemons does. So what do you do to take care of yourself and sustain your energy and even just to have fun and let loose?
Okay, so like some things that I'll have to do to like just like to contain myself and just be like super calm and stuff. I do sleep a lot, so that's one thing. Let's see. I sleep a lot. I watch a lot of anime. I draw. I skateboard. I also do dance. I do tumbling. I do cheer. Let's see. Basically, I just do a lot of. Oh, I also game. I also do like a lot of things that like normal people would do on a daily basis, just to like maintain myself. And then after that, I do my activism and stuff like that. But those are like some things that like calm me down when I'm like if I'm like super overwhelmed and stuff like that. Especially sleeping. Sleeping when you're very exhausted and overwhelmed and just downright sad and sleeping through your problems. That is the best thing ever. It really is.
No, I'll jot that down. I mean, I need an excuse to take some more naps, definitely. Yeah, no, and it sounds from the amount of work or the amount of hobbies that you have, it sounds like you have no issue with energy at all. Definitely. And I mean, if this is you at low energy over Zoom, then in real life, oh man, I can't imagine. But we're just about out of time. So we've been like really honored to have you here, Mari. And thank you so much for answering all of our questions and indulging and giving us a great speech. It was really awesome. And I look forward, I'm sure the rest of the audience does too, to your 2044 presidential run. But boy, will I be old. Oh man. Oh man. And speaking of the audience, we at Rathbun are really glad to have so many of you here joining us in this virtual space. We know that it's not ideal, but social inequity doesn't end during a social pandemic. And in fact, it spikes. That makes summits like these and wisdom like Mari's and Terisa's even more important than ever. And luckily, the summit doesn't end here. We have a couple more action-packed days planned ahead of us. Tomorrow, we turn our attention to climate change activism and shakers and movers like Black Earth Farms and Stanford's Environmental Justice Working Group. Then on Wednesday, we hear from the likes of the Young Women's Freedom Center and Communities United for Restorative Youth Justice as we focus on activism against the carceral state, followed by a no doubt powerful closing reflection led by Stanford's very own Colleen Halligan-Prenninger and Dean Tiffany Steinwert. I look forward to seeing you guys there at 4 p.m. Pacific, and have a good evening.